The war had raged for decades, leaving Earth's surface a scorched and crumbling shell of its former self. The Chrysalans, an insectoid species with sleek exoskeletons and hive-like coordination, had descended upon humanity with ruthless efficiency. Their technology surpassed anything humans had ever encountered, and every attempt to resist had ended in devastating loss. Humanity's numbers dwindled, its spirit nearly crushed under the weight of despair. But where desperation thrived, so too did innovation. In the shadowy depths of an underground laboratory, scientists made a discovery that promised to change everything. They had long theorized about the existence of a plane beyond death, a realm where the echoes of extinct life lingered, a place they called the Necrotic Field. At first, it had been an intellectual curiosity, a hypothesis explored by fringe researchers. But as Earth fell further under Chrysalan control, necessity transformed theory into action. The breakthrough came when Dr. Valeria Kwon, a biophysicist with a reputation for pushing boundaries, found a way to breach the necrotic field. Using a combination of quantum resonance and genetic reconstruction, her team pulled an extinct species from the void and reanimated it. A saber-toothed tiger, its golden fur rippling with latent power. It was the first successful test of Project Resurrection. The government, desperate for any advantage, immediately green-lit the operation for full-scale deployment. Not everyone was convinced. Protests erupted in hidden human enclaves, with people calling the project a violation of natural order. "We're playing God," they cried, bringing back creatures that belonged to the past. But the war demanded sacrifices, and ethics became a luxury few could afford. Captain Elena Vázquez, a seasoned officer with scars from battles both external and internal, found herself at the heart of the operation. Elena watched the resurrected creatures with a mixture of awe and unease. Mammoths, their thick fur gleaming, were equipped with neural implants that linked them to human handlers. Saber-toothed tigers moved with deadly grace, their augmented muscles capable of tearing through Chrysalan armor. Even the dodos, thought to be clumsy relics of history, had been enhanced with lightweight sensory equipment, making them ideal scouts. These weren't just animals. They were weapons, crafted to fight a war they had never known. As she prepared her team for their first mission, Elena couldn't shake the weight of what they were about to do. The plan was simple: deploy the resurrected creatures to break through a heavily fortified Chrysalan outpost. But the implications were far from straightforward. She found herself staring into the amber eyes of one of the tigers, feeling an odd sense of recognition, as if the creature carried something more than primal instinct. "This is survival," Elena reminded herself. "If we don't fight, we die." Yet deep in her heart, she wondered if humanity's greatest strength, its ability to adapt and innovate, was also its greatest flaw. Were they saving themselves, or becoming something unrecognizable in the process? Only time would tell, but for now, the mission awaited, and the creatures of the past were ready to march into the future. The victory at the colony brought momentary relief, but it didn't come without cost. As the resurrected creatures were transported back to base, signs of strain became evident. One of the mammoths, a massive bull nicknamed Atlas, began to thrash violently inside its containment unit, its mournful trumpeting echoing through the facility. It took a team of tranquilizer drones to subdue it, but not before it injured 3 handlers. Elena watched the incident unfold with a sinking feeling. These animals were resilient, but something was wrong. They weren't meant to exist in this world, and the cracks were starting to show. The neural implants, designed to stabilize their minds, seemed to falter under prolonged stress. Reports trickled in of saber-toothed tigers displaying erratic behavior, attacking their own reflection or pacing endlessly as if trapped by unseen forces. Even the dodos, usually calm and efficient, began emitting strange, distorted chirps that unnerved the scientists. Back in the lab, Dr. Kwon called an emergency meeting. Her face was pale, her usual confidence replaced by a grim seriousness. She explained that the necrotic field wasn't just a passive repository of extinct life. It was an interconnected web of consciousness, a place where the essence of these creatures lingered. By pulling them out, humanity had disrupted a delicate balance, and the consequences were becoming apparent. "We've tapped into something far beyond our understanding," Kwon said, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "These animals aren't just biological entities. They're tethered to the field, and the longer they stay here, the more unstable they become." The revelation sent a ripple of unease through the room. It wasn't just the animals at risk. If the necrotic field destabilized, it could tear open completely, unleashing untold chaos. There were even whispers among the scientists of other entities within the field, ancient, unknowable forces that might view humanity's intrusion as a threat. Elena's thoughts kept drifting back to Shadow. The tiger had shown signs of intelligence beyond what anyone had expected. It moved with precision in battle, reacted to commands almost before they were given, and seemed to understand her in ways that defied explanation. But now it too showed signs of distress. She found it pacing its enclosure, growling softly at the shadows that danced on the walls. When their eyes met, there was no hostility, only a quiet, aching sadness that left her shaken. The team debated their next steps. Some argued for shutting down the project entirely, returning the animals to the necrotic field before the situation spiraled further out of control. Others, including high-ranking officials, insisted on continuing. The war against the Chrysalans wasn't over, and humanity couldn't afford to abandon its most effective weapon. Elena stood at the crossroads, torn between duty and the nagging voice in her head that told her they were walking a dangerous path. As she watched Shadow rest uneasily, its massive chest rising and falling with each strained breath, she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just fighting to save their species, they were gambling with forces far beyond their comprehension.